Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, you are going to hear a one-on-one coaching call with community member Jen. Jen has been a member of our group coaching community for a while now. She has grown so much over the time that she has been inside of the group coaching community, and I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to come join us inside of the POC community. So, I have the back to school special because you deserve something for your kids going back to school. So what I have done is I have created a back to school special where you receive 2 weeks of a free trial to the group coaching community. And then it is only $33 a month after that, which is the price that the founding members got when I first launched the community. So this is a special you do not want to miss. Make sure to come join us. Click the link in the show notes for the back to school special. We do weekly group coaching. We do a monthly workshop that is specifically for you as a professional organizer. You have the community of other women there to support you that are also working their organizing businesses. And if you're just getting started as a professional organizer, there are women in the Start Your Business part of the community that are also just getting started as well, that are going through my course, they're doing their homework, they're popping it into the membership, and they're helping each other. There are so many benefits to being a part of a coaching community where you get coached, you get to hear other people get coached, and you get support, inspiration, accountability. There's so many things that are value-packed when you are a part of the POC group coaching community. I hear it all the time from my ladies that they would not still be working their organizing business if they were not a part of the group coaching community. Because let's face it, starting an organizing business, it comes with its challenges. Starting any business comes with challenges, but especially in that first year or so, you really need a sisterhood of passionate professional organizers to support you, to encourage you, and so you know that you are not alone. You have other women going through very similar things, and it's like having your own team. If you're struggling with something, or if you are having an issue, you have me to lean on, you have the other members of the community. So $33 a month is a steal. Again, it comes with a 2-week free trial because I want you to be able to hop in there, see if this is something that is for you, try it out, and if it isn't, you can always cancel. But I know you won't because you're going to see the value. And we have the replay vault. At this point, we are close to 100 videos inside of the replay vault that you can go back through and watch the previous workshops, the previous group coaching sessions. There's so many things in there. So do yourself a favor, come join us in the group coaching community. And if you're like, well, Samantha, I would love to come join the group coaching community, but I've not even started my business yet. It's still just an idea in my head. I'm ready to start. I think I'm, ready to start taking those steps, but I haven't actually started yet. Well, then you need to go to the academy and join the course, because when you buy the course, the How to Start Your Business course, it comes with 3 months free of the group coaching community. You get a workbook, you get all sorts of things to walk you through the steps of starting your organizing business. So if you're like, ooh, the community sounds amazing, but I'm still just now getting started, or I've only done a couple of little things to get my business off the ground. Well, then go get the How to Start Your Business course so you can still come join us inside of the group coaching community. Because when you join the community through the course, A, you have a place to post your homework as you do the homework from the course. B, you get 3 months included in the price of the course. So then that way we can support you on your journey of starting your business. And then after that, you get to continue being a member for $24 a month for as long as you want to be a member. So I'm trying to set this up in a way that you have a course to start your business. You have a community to support you along the way. if you're at a place where you need a website, I have my website course that I can offer you as well. Wherever you are in your journey, I have a way to help you. And I say that because I had a lady reach out to me on Instagram the other day. She DM'd me and she said, Samantha, here's where I am on my journey. What do you have to help me? And so I told her, I said, well, you could either go this route and do the back to school special and just join the community and have group coaching, or you can purchase the course and then come into the community that way. So she purchased the course, she joined the community. So I have got you covered. I also want to make sure to mention, don't forget, starting with the 100th episode, we will be doing a revamp of Pro Organizers Coach. And it's not really a revamp. It's more of a niching in and helping you, not just from the start your business part of being a professional organizer, but even before that. I want you to learn and figure out, what is your mission? What is your God-led calling? So you can create a business that is built on those pillars. That way you stand out, you have a purpose, your passion is in it, and then that way it makes life so much easier. Your business is way more likely to succeed. And I'm so excited to bring you those details within the next few episodes. But for the moment, again, go join us in the group coaching community with the back to school special. If you have been wanting to join the community, now is your time. I would love to have you. I cannot wait to meet you. And I am so ready and so excited to get into the episode with Jen from the group coaching community. I'm Samantha Brown, professional organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created Pro Organizers Coach podcast to empower you to reach new heights in your business. I am on a mission to build a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just getting started, this podcast is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast and YouTube channel. Today I have a special guest. It is Jen from my membership. And so Jen's been with me for a little bit now. We were doing our group coaching session this week inside of the membership. And Jen is having a few, not issues, but maybe some like mental blocks around like raising her prices and just a few little things that I was like, okay, well, let's hop on the podcast. Let's do a recording so everyone can hear, because we always know if one person's dealing with it, more than likely most of everyone else that listens is dealing with it in some form or fashion. So thank you, Jen, for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So Jen is from south of Albany, New York, and the name of her business is Neat Nesting. She joined the POC family right at about a year ago. I think she's getting ready to come up on her year anniversary. So maybe we start there. Maybe just tell them a little bit about kind of where you were right before joining, how it's been this past year, and that'll lead us into what's going on for you now.
Sure. So I joined like mid-April, I want to say, of last year. I had left my long-term job in mid-February. I've been there almost 6 years, and it had been a very toxic work environment. And I really should have left earlier, but I was trying in the background to do some things for planning my business. Like I had gotten my website up, I had gotten my socials, I'd done all the things to prep almost everything pretty much by the time I joined the group. But I hadn't launched because there was a lot else going on. And I knew I needed to leave that job in order to make this work, because I just couldn't handle both at once. I don't necessarily recommend it for everyone, because if you can do this part-time while you're in another job, please do. That's, the best option financially. But I was in a situation where I had to leave. So I joined the group, and pretty much right away I was like, well, I have everything ready to go. I just haven't launched, and I'm afraid to launch. So between you and the other ladies were very much pushing me to just put it out there. Just if you're ready to go, just post it. So I did finally, after it was only about a month later. I needed the other push, and I need the accountability, which is why I joined this group, because I had just been spinning my wheels I had started prepping, like I bought my website 2 years before that. And my Instagram too, I think was probably around the same time. So I just needed a group to push. So started my business. It was about a month and a half or so until I got my first client. It was a friend of mine. So thank you for, for supporting me. And then it just continued to grow slowly from there. I would say the summer was pretty slow. I just had a couple people. Once September hit, I started getting a little more traction. September, October, November was, I wouldn't say, I wasn't full time, but it was fairly busy considering, I'd only started a few months before. And by January of this year, I have gotten to a point where I'm almost at full time, I'd say. I'd say most months I'm doing like probably about 2/3 of the income that I want. So I'm really just pushing to try and get that last part and also make sure that it's a sustainable thing for me, because I know, we'll talk about it a little in this episode, but Samantha and I were discussing the idea of me taking on too many hours to make the money that I want to make versus trying to adjust my pricing so that I can comfortably do those hours and still make what I need to make to pay my bills. So
yeah, that's kind of where we got, I don't know, a month or two ago ish, somewhere in there, of like, what does full time mean to you? Because and in the group we were talking about it, because for a lot of us, we still have that employee mindset where we're like, oh, we need to work 40 to 60 hours a week, and we don't ever sit and actually look at the numbers, right? And be like, okay, what do I need to actually live? And then what do I need to live comfortably? Because those are normally two different numbers. And then figuring out and breaking it down from there of, okay, well, then how many sessions do I need at the price that I'm currently at, to catch all of you up? So Jen, a lot of the clients that she's getting have ADHD. What we were talking about is it's very hard for anyone, any client that we work with, past the 3-hour mark, especially when you're focusing more on decluttering, to make that many decisions and do it for a longer period of time. And so that's kind of where she's hitting this, like, well, I mean, I could go up to a 4-hour session instead of a 3, but then it seems to be too much for the client sometimes. And there's just a lot of different things to consider when considering what is the pricing, how many hours per session, how many sessions does she actually need. So that's why I was like, all right, let's just hop on, we'll coach it out, we'll figure it out, and we'll help you come up with an answer. And we know that a lot of our stuff in our business, like we talk about all the time, is mindset. And it's all more so the inner stuff for us that is showing up in our business and in our decisions. And which is great though, because when it starts to show up, that means, oh, we can deal with that thing and start to grow and keep moving forward without it actually staying, bottled up inside of us and us not knowing. So it's a beautiful thing what happens when we're starting our business, or working our business even. So, okay, tell me what your goal is for our time together. Like, ideally, if you could walk away with, like, what would you like to walk away with after we get done?
I would say, I guess, a discussion about the actual pricing, and like you mentioned, the hours thing is something that's really been weighing on me. And do I expand that? And if I expand that, do I do that with my current clients? And how do I explain to them, hey, I'm going up to 4 hours, when part of my sales pitch was we only have to do 3 hours at a time. So I'm trying to grapple with that and see if I want to stick with those 3 hours versus higher pricing or whatever. And I think also we had discussed the idea of, like, you mentioned the mindset, like trying to get over the employee or the hourly rate mindset that I'm kind of stuck in. Because even though Samantha teaches sessions and a price for a session, I still can't get past that hourly in my head. And yes, you can calculate based on an hourly, but even when I'm talking to my clients, I'm, always got that hourly in the back of my head, and it makes it a little more difficult. And trying to also figure out, what's holding me back as far as, like, why am I having so much trouble seeing the value in what I provide versus the money? Like, because as we discussed, like, if it's a valuable service, you can charge this is an industry where we charge a certain amount because we are providing so much value to our clients, but I'm struggling to see that value myself.
Yeah, well, because it comes easy to you. That's where a lot of us get stuck in that, is because for us it's so easy. We're like, oh, well,
Right.
I don't have to put much like effort into this. I can do it naturally. So why would someone pay me for this? That's kind of where a lot of us get stuck. But I actually think maybe we start there with the mindset before we even start talking numbers or anything. So talk to me a little bit more about that. So like kind of like what you said, where I teach sessions and then, but you're still seeing the hourly. When you're seeing the hourly, what are you seeing? Are you just seeing the hours you're there with the client, or are like what hours are you actually seeing?
So like I have a certain session rate for a 3-hour session, a session rate for a 4-hour. I even have a 5-hour, but it's basically just adding that extra hour on there. And I almost wonder if by thinking of it like that, where like, oh, if the client wants to add an extra hour or two, I can stay longer. And maybe that is part of what's holding me back, is that I'm looking at it again, just as I'm going there to work for 3 hours, not I'm going for a session.
Right.
So like if I were to say to myself, okay, I'm almost wondering if I'm offering too much options. And even if it's just in my own head, like, do I just say, look, it's a 3-hour session and that's it. That's the price. And then if it goes over a little, like 15, 20 minutes, like you've said, okay, maybe that's worked in. If we want to, go for a lot longer, that's different. But I feel like maybe I just need to say, nope, I'm cutting it off at 3 hours. Like this is the session, because otherwise I'll keep calculating it in my head as far as like, well, are they getting their value per hour? Because I just really struggle with that hourly thing. Like I've worked one job in my life that was salary. And to be honest, I worked even harder on that job and probably got less per hour than if I had been hourly, because that was the culture. So I'm just trying to get, I guess, past the idea that, I have to give them an exact hourly rate.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't know, which is crazy to me because we talk all the time. I didn't know you were doing a 3, a 4, or a 5. So no wonder you're getting confused, or like not confused, but you're like stressing yourself out because there are too many options. It's kind of like when you go to buy mustard. Well, there's this mustard bottle and this one and this one and this one, and it's like I just want mustard. Like somebody give just pick one. So what made you think that it was something you wanted to do, of offering? Like, what was your thought process behind offering the 3, the 4, and the 5-hour sessions?
I guess part of it is because depending on the person, they may be comfortable doing more hours at a time, or because I may need to stay a little longer to finish a project. And maybe that is partially me not being fully ready to estimate areas yet. I also tend to have an issue with clients where we don't have a lot of finite plans prior to me arriving. Or if we did, it changes. So like I might go in thinking I'm going to work on their living room. And then when I get there, they're like, oh, what's really driving me crazy is my basement. So then I switch gears, but then if we want to get that basement finished, it might take a little longer or something. So I don't know.
What's the fear of if you don't finish a room in a session?
I mean, I don't always. I usually don't, in fact. But I think it's more if I'm close to finishing and they're willing to do that extra hour, I'll just be like, let's just knock it out now, which is fine. But I think part of it is I give the flexibility of more hours more often than I just say, okay, here's 3 hours, we're done, that's it.
Are they normally taking you up on it?
I would say 50-50.
Okay.
Should I do 4?
Yeah, and kind of that happy medium, because I think doing a 4-hour session is going to do a couple of things for you, right? I think it's going to help make it to where you can charge more because you're doing more work, which is going to help you not need as many sessions per week to feel comfortable and secure in being able to pay your bills. I think it's also going to help get this like willy nilly, like not sure stuff out of the way of just like you said a second ago. If you just think of it as a session's 4 hours, it is what it is. Because most things within 4 hours, they're not going to want to go any longer. And if you do need to go longer, you're going to just need to book another session and like finish it up at the end or at the beginning of the next session before moving to maybe another room. Or they can finish it up for homework, or, it kind of gives you that extra hour of play to where, okay, the 3 hours, you can really do what you need to do to get it done. But then you keep an eye on the clock. And once it gets to, the third hour and you've done 3 hours already, okay, we're down to the last hour. Let's figure out what the game plan is. Because I think that's the other thing is we think that, or at least I did. I thought that I had to have all the answers for the client. And then B, I had to kind of tie it off in this pretty little bow and like make it perfect for them before I walked out the door. When now I've realized, that never works. I tell the client from the beginning, like, this is a collaborative process. And during the session, I may even ask you a few times, like, okay, we have an hour left. What would you like to tackle the most in this last hour? Like, it's okay to say those things to our clients. And then that way they are happy. They are a part of the process. They do feel like we took their input. And then I think a lot of this is also the client expectations from the beginning. It's figuring out for Jen, what does Jen's organizing business look like? What are the sessions? What are the prices? What are the details? And then just from the very first phone call, from the website, from the beginning of them finding you, you're already setting that expectation. So then there is no like back and forthness, or like you're not even opening that door for them to be allowed to make that decision per se. It's more of you making the decisions as needed. You can always offer to stay a little bit longer if you need to, if it presents itself, but you don't have to tell them that during the consultation when you don't even know if that is going to present itself,
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing too, the more I've thought about it, is I end up staying longer than 3 hours, but I'm only charging them the 3 because I'll sometimes, kind of want to get everything done or get as much done as I can, and then go load up my car with the donations and this and that. And it ends up going over 15, 20, sometimes even 30 minutes. So really what I should be doing is taking that into consideration and saying, okay, maybe the 3 hours isn't enough. Even if they're done at 3 hours or 3.5-ish, then that's time for me to put donations in the car, get the payment on it, discuss with them the plan for the next week. That's more of a administrative and physical donation moving time. Because I think the time that I end up giving them is definitely more than what they're paying for if you calculate it hourly as I have been. So maybe that would help shift things a little too.
Yeah, and it would make you feel better because to be able to sustain this thing long term, you have to feel good about what you're walking away with.
Right.
If you're frustrated every time you walk away of like, man, that took me, an extra hour of my time that I didn't even get paid for. And, and then those thoughts start creeping in all of a sudden, if those build over time, you're going to find yourself very burnt out and very frustrated with your business. Yeah, I would almost think of it from what you're saying as it's a 4-hour session, right? Like it's a 4-hour session. Take the 3 away, take the 5 away. But in your mind, you're thinking it's actually 3.5 hours of working the room and then 30 minutes of winding down, whatever that winding down period looks like for you. Because I know you were concerned that they wouldn't have the mental capacity. You didn't want to overwhelm them and give them too much decision fatigue if it went too long over 3 hours. Well, 3.5, that's not that much longer anyways.
Right.
I think that would help tremendously. So how does that feel to you? Just getting rid of all options and saying 4 hours is the session.
I think that the only concern I would have, and, that's something I can think about and decide on, is the current clients that I have, notifying them or changing the system or whatever, and making sure that that's okay with them. So maybe I just start that with new clients, or maybe I discuss it with certain clients, and if there's certain clients that can't handle it, keep it at the 3 or whatever. But saying this out loud, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to please them again.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to give all these options so that everybody's happy. And that's probably not a good idea.
And can I remind you, do you remember who told me, Samantha, pick a time that works for you and people will either show up or they won't?
Yes, I did. I
Yes.
do remember that very well. And as I said the other night, I'm very good at giving other people advice that I am not great about taking for myself because I'm a people pleaser.
Yes, and a lot of us are in this industry. So no judgment. It's all good. We just,
Right. You're right. I've only had one situation where a client wanted to end early because they were overwhelmed. And it was only one session, and I did multiple sessions with that person. So, the fact that most of the time they did 3 hours or more, no problem at all, it probably is just me being concerned that I'm somehow inconveniencing them, even though they're the ones paying me to do this.
And even though they called you for help.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You might be inconveniencing them. Yes, of course.
Right.
Okay. So what if we come back to, do not let me forget, but we'll come back to the current client situation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do that. But now let's talk about financially, because now if we've decided on a 4-hour session, right now you're charging, it's $65 per hour, quote unquote, right? Like it was,
right.
Is it $195?
$195 for the 3-hour session.
Because what kept coming up for me, we can kind of play with this as you want, but either like a $247 or a $297. It's always worked good for me. $247 for the 3-hour seems totally like reasonable. That's still around like kind of the $75 mark ish. But if you're bumping it up to 4 hours now, so when you tell them it's a 4-hour session for $297, how does that feel for you?
It doesn't feel great.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is because I feel like it's a big jump. And I know that it's an increase in hours. I get that. I'm almost wondering if I need to do this in 2 phases, where like I go up in hours and then further down the line, I go up in the price, quote unquote, per hour or per session. I'll stop saying per hour because they're trying to get me out of that.
Okay, so it's $260. So saying $260 doesn't sound scary, but saying $297 does?
Yeah, because I've had multiple sessions where people have been fine with the 4 hours, and we did it and paid $260, no problem. Like they didn't bat an eyelash. So I guess it's because I'm used to that, like that it's already been okay, and that nobody has gotten upset. And I hear what you're saying because it's only like
$37.
I think I'd have to just sit on it. But I think it feels uncomfortable, but I think that's just me talking, because I was planning to, if I kept to the way I've currently done it, I was planning to go up to $75 per hour, quote unquote.
Which would be the $297.
Which would be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's, I don't know. I think it's also just like going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like the mindset stuff too. Like I have a hard time imagining ever paying someone $300 to work in my house for 4 hours. I mean, yes, I've paid plumbers and stuff like that, but I just don't see myself on that same level. And I think that's what we were briefly talking about the other day. Like
So what makes a plumber a plumber? The reason I'm asking this is because I'll tell everyone that's listening. So Jen had a plumbing issue not too long ago. She had a leak. She ended up having to pay the guy like $1,000. and he had to come fix it, but it was a leak, so it had to be fixed, and then he fixed it. Okay, so we can pay the plumber $1,000. So now, why can we not pay an organizer $300? Like, so back to my question: what makes a plumber worth that kind of money?
I can't do plumbing.
Oh,
I don't know how to do plumbing. So if I could do it myself, I would do it myself. Um, and because organizing does come so easily to me, which also, ironically, I wasn't organized as a child, but then I was in a situation in college where I had to become organized. So since then, I've been very interested in it, but I can do it now naturally. So I figure, why would anybody pay for that? But it's just hard for me to see it on the same level because the plumber, had all this training and they have gone through years of, working under someone with a trade or whatever. And I think part of it is the training part of it, like, because I didn't do any formal training.
okay, hold on. Stop that thought. How many hours have you worked with clients in home at this point?
I don't know.
Enough that could maybe be considered, like, if just from this moment, if you thought about the fact that any sort of apprenticeship, any sort of like hairstylists that go to school for 8 or 9 months, or any of that, right? And they're learning their trade. If yours was learning in the home with clients, like, plus you're a research maniac. So like, you've done the schooling part, like, this, like, you've read all the books, you've joined all the things, you've done all the stuff. You've got that part in spades.
Yeah, I get it. I think also I have a hard time because I have a college degree. So in my head, like, it was 4 years of work for that. Like, I haven't done 4 in theory. Of course, if I calculated, I may have. But in my head, I haven't done 4 hours of, trained work for this. Did I say 4 hours? I meant 4 years. You know what I mean?
We got you. Yeah, we got you. I personally would rather have someone that comes in and like knows how to do something over the person that went to school for it, but doesn't really have the common sense for it. Like, you can go to school all day long and you can learn all the stuff, but implementing that thing that you've been reading about in books, two totally different scenarios, right? And we know, as well as, I'm sure all of us know, any trade school, when you go to a trade school, you have your certificate normally within like as little as sometimes 6 months. It's not like it's this 4-year thing because it's a trade. It's one thing you're learning. You don't have to learn the English and the math and the storytelling and speech. And that's why university is so many years, because of all the fluff that they make you learn along the way to your degree. And so I just bring that up because it'd be nice if you could help get your mind shifted around the fact that people are not paying for your degree. They're not paying. What they're paying for is the transformation, the problem that you are fixing for them.
Yeah.
When you get feedback from your clients, when you go in and you help them and do a session, what is it they are saying at the end of sessions?
Often thank you is said a lot. They are happy with how things have progressed, even if we're not finished. Some of my reviews have been very nice. One client in particular, I started her and her husband on a more minimalist journey, and she feels great with a lot less stuff in her closets and less to worry about when she's going to pick out what she's going to wear and all that. Tuesday, I took 11 boxes of books from a house. So he was pretty happy that he can actually fit all of his books on a bookshelf now. Well, multiple bookshelves, but anyway. Yeah, they definitely have said that they're learning things that they can then use going forward, and how much they appreciate the clear space and the calm feeling, even if it's not 100% done.
And by the way, not to interrupt you, but that's a you problem, not a them problem, that it's not 100% done. That's a me problem. And it's a me problem too. Us as organizers, we want to finish it. We want the job to be done. And in our mind, if it's not done, it's not right, or there's something off, or there's something wrong. When in their mind, they're like, oh my gosh, it's better than I thought it was going to be. Or it's so much easier to maintain, which was the goal they were after in the first place. They don't care if it's Pinterest perfect or if it's our version of done. To them, it's better than when we walked through the door on a whole different level. And it's done in a way that they know they could not have done for themselves, or they would have already done it for themselves if they could do it for themselves. And so we are the answer to their prayer. We're the solution to their problem.
Right.
And that's what a trade is. It's any, like if your vehicle's broke, you go to a mechanic, they fix it because you have a problem. If your pipe busts, you need a plumber because you have a problem. For our clients, they have a problem and we are the solution. And so you're going to have to shift your mindset just a little bit more on what is that worth? It's not about what you are worth. It's not about, because you're worth everything. There's no number value to what you're worth. It's not about you necessarily at all. It's what is that transformation worth? What is that problem solved for them worth?
Yeah.
And think about cleaners. Like people pay their cleaners sometimes weekly to come in, and they pay them like $150 to come in to vacuum, which it's hard work. Do not get me wrong. That's why I switched to organizing, not cleaning, because it is so labor intensive. And I was like, I cannot do this forever. So praise you if you clean homes. But that ends up being like $500-600 a month every month. But they're okay with paying that because it takes something off their list that they don't have to do anymore. And that is something they could do on their own, but they would prefer not to. Like there's an exchange of money or time or energy being exchanged. And they're all essentially equal in value. You just have to, for some people, they'd rather pay money and not have to give the energy. For other people, they'd rather give the energy and not have to give the money. So like it's finding, but it still brings value is my point. It still brings them a transformation. And so I think it's more of asking yourself, what is this worth to my clients? Like, and if you want to do this in sections, by all means, because I know for you that, sometimes it's a baby step first and then you dive in and then you're like, dang, why didn't I do that earlier? But oh, well, okay, let's keep going. That's great. Right. So if you did a 4-hour session at $297, which you will be, but for purpose sake, $250. So if we were doing $250, how many sessions per week would you need to make ends meet?
Good question. Well, depends, because you and I discussed about the idea of, do I just calculate what I absolutely need, or do I calculate what is, living a comfortable life?
Good. And this is building a business is about living a comfortable life. So yes. And I purposely said to make ends meet because I wanted to see what you would say. So go ahead with the comfortable number.
Oh, did you say to make ends meet? I was already doing the math in my head because I didn't hear that part. I would say 250, probably 3 sessions would be okay. I'm just doing the quick math here.
And while you're doing that math, I'll let the listeners know. So the reason we're trying to figure this out is because when she was doing the 3-hour sessions at the price she's been doing them at, she was hitting this thing where she needed to work about 3.5 sessions or almost 4 sessions per week, which is just way too much on anyone's body, especially to sustain for a very long time. So that's why we were thinking if we could go to 4 hours and up her rate by about $10 an hour, which is not that much, then it would make it to where the 3 session, like instead of 4 sessions just to barely make ends meet, all of a sudden it's 3 sessions to live comfortably.
Yeah. And I think, that change, if I went up to 4, I would be able to do 3 sessions. Now, if I went up to 4 and increased the price at the same time, so, or shortly thereafter went to the higher amount, like you said, closer to the 297, that would probably be even better. And I say that only because I think even the 3-hour or 3 sessions a week at that 260 is still cutting it kind of close.
Right. Like there's no wiggle room. It's like all of a sudden it's okay if one week you only have 2 sessions, because then if the other week you have 3 or 4, like it helps balance it out more to where every single week there doesn't need to be so much pressure on it. It has to be 4 sessions, or it has to be, because honestly, like realistically, getting 4 sessions or more every single week, especially when you're still newer, it's hard. And when you live somewhere that's not in a big, huge city. Now, it'd be different if you lived in some big city or, but with all the different circumstances, like it's being resourceful with what you have, where you live, looking at this and building this thing out with perspective and like with good thought behind it. Okay. So now if you did 4-hour sessions, you could do 3 per week and be good. Like and then once you raise your price the additional 37, you could be really good. Perfect. Okay. And so we went over the actual pricing, the hours, the mindset, and now we need to talk about the current clients.
Yeah.
So here's my thought on clients. So first off, and you can tell me how this feels to you, because I don't ever want to like just tell you, but I also want to give you kind of my thought process and what I've seen before when I've raised my prices. So what I've done in the past when I've raised my prices is anyone that I was currently working with, I went like in that, like we've already signed the contract or the agreement and we're in the middle of sessions kind of thing. I go ahead and tell them, hey, I just want to let you know that I did raise my price, but because I had already quoted you at my previous price, I'm going to keep it there. What you're doing though is that you're going up in your session numbers. I've always just moved the cost, but I've never gone from 3 to 4 or 4 to 3 hours. So we need to kind of look at that part just a little differently. And so maybe each client that you have currently, if it's a client that you look at it and that they cannot handle 4 hours, because you've already done a few sessions with each one of these clients. So just think back on each, like the answer can be different for each client is kind of the point I'm getting at. Where if you think about the sessions you've had with that client and they seem like they could have gone longer, or it automatically did go longer, well, then those clients, go ahead and let them know, hey, so, I've been doing some readjusting in my business. I just wanted to let you know I'm actually going to be doing the 4-hour sessions moving forward. And I would love to be able to do that with you so we can get this job done faster, so we can get more done for you and make it about them getting more done for them, because it is. How would you feel if our sessions went 4 hours instead of 3? What are your thoughts on that? And then just get their feedback. Don't assume, just get their feedback. Go ahead and change. Like I would change your website. I would change your paperwork, all that stuff. And then anyone that calls you after this date, this is what it looks like to work with me. I do a 4-hour session. This is the price. And then go on with the rest of your spill. And it just is what it is. And then that way that starts building that out for future clients. So then your current clients, you look at each one individually and you kind of get their feedback on their thoughts. Because I have a feeling most of them are going to be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I'd much rather do 4 so we can get this thing done. Like, I don't think they're going to think twice about it. And then you need to let them know whenever they say like, oh, okay, yeah. So on the pricing part for the current clients, I would stay at the 65. And then just let them know, like, I've added this 4th hour, because you don't want to add an hour and go up on the price. That's a lot of information to give someone in the middle of a job. And so for them, I would just tell them you're going up an hour on your sessions. You would prefer to do 4 so you can get the job done faster for them at the $65 per hour. And I would say the price per hour is not going to change. We're just going to add an hour to each session.
Okay.
And that's how I would explain that.
So you're saying on my website, though, you would recommend that I do both right away. The increase in price and the increase in hours for any new clients that are coming in.
Yeah, I think you just jump. And I don't know if it was you that said it. Somebody said it to me today. No, it was one of the other ladies in the group. She said, because she's thinking about raising her prices and she's still newer. And she said, it just hit me today. I can always give a discount, but I can't ever add on more money.
Right.
And she's like, so I think I am going to go up. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thought, but yes, if it were me, I would just go ahead and bump it to it's a 4-hour session for $297. But if you decide you want to do the 4 hours for $260, then do that on there. But I would take away the 3-hour option and the 5-hour option. It just is a session, and a session's 4 hours, period. But then for your previous clients that you are currently not working with that call you back later, for those clients, I normally cut a deal with them. So if they call me back, like I had a lady just the other day that we worked together like a year ago. And I said, hey, since we last worked, I've actually gone up on my prices. So I wanted to let you know, here's my current. So for you, you'd be like, my new thing is I do a 4-hour session for $297. But for you, because we've worked together before, I'm actually going to split the difference with you. Or I'm going to give you $25 less, or I'm going to give you $50, like whatever feels good for you. Just make that decision now before you get those phone calls, because you will get those phone calls and you need to have already prepped yourself on what to say, because if not, then your heart's going to take over and you're going to be like, well, I'll do a 4-hour session actually at the 3-hour price I charged you last time. I'll be there Tuesday.
Yeah, I would kind of be like anybody prior to January of 2024, just be like, okay, here's my new rates and see what they say.
Here's my new rates that started in 2024, period. Like because most people understand businesses changing their rate on January 1st. For whatever reason, that's an okay time to up your rates and change for the new calendar year. But I think specifically with the few clients that might reach back out to you, or the ones that you have, current, or even when they do reach out, I just make sure to be upfront and honest from the beginning, set those expectations, and just let them know, listen, I'm changing my pricing structure. I just wanted to go and give you a heads up. For you, it is still the $65 an hour, but we're just adding an additional hour per session. For others, I've gone up to a 4-hour session and I've raised my price to about $75 an hour, but I'm going to keep it at $65 an hour for you because we're still working together. I just want to let you know I've added an hour so we can get more done and it can benefit you more, where we have to do less sessions to get the job done.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's not a lot of downside for that. The only downside, quote unquote, would be that they're paying more per session. But if they were going to do those hours anyway, and it might also be better for them to not have to worry about extra days that I'm coming there. They have to do less days with me because of the 4 hours. So yeah, that makes sense. And I think the idea of like giving people options, and also I like what you suggested about treating each client differently, in the sense that, like, if I know for a fact one's not going to handle the 4 hours, that I can modify it for them, because technically I can do whatever I want.
Right.
This is the whole point of, having my own business. I think that works. And then I'll definitely have to feel how I feel about the price jump too. But I think as long as I do it for newer clients, I think I'm okay with it. I think it's just the people who have already agreed to that makes me uncomfortable. I'd want to give them a lot more notice before pricing changed.
Yeah, and that's not what we're talking about at all. Like, we're talking about keeping your agreement with the people you have now. You're actually doing them, like you said, a service, because it's less days that you have to come. They're still going to be paying the same amount you originally told them anyways. So you're really not changing anything on them except just, hey, I'm staying an extra hour. And then for the new people coming in, as long as it's on your website and in all of your stuff from the second they start seeing your things, because you don't want your website to still say you have options or, different things. And then they get to you and you're like, oh, wait, I changed my mind. It's this. Like, you just want to make sure they already know what to expect. They're never going to know the difference, that it was any cheaper. They're never going to know that you did a 3-hour session. Like, they don't know these things.
Right.
They just know what you're doing when they get to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I just have to be okay with not offering so many options.
Yes.
I know it's best for me, but
can I offer that it might actually be better for them as well?
you're probably right, because I think also a lot of the clients, they would almost feel better if I just told them, here's when I'm going to be here, these number of hours, and I'm getting there at this time, so they don't have to make that decision.
Because they're already overwhelmed and stressed. And so when they reach out to you, that's what I've learned is kind of like my superpower when people reach out to me is I'm like, listen, give me your stress. Let me tell you how it's going to go. And then like I don't give them any option. They're like, I say, I drop my son off at 8:30. I will be there at 9 a.m. or 9:30 based on where they live. I do sessions during the week. Now I do give them a little bit of option if they need like a weekend, but I always ask them like, what's your work schedule look like? They tell me, and then I tell them, okay, well then I have this day or this day, but it's not, well, I could do that, like I don't overwhelm them with too many options. If there are options, it's this or that, which one, which is the same as when I'm decluttering with people. The idea, some organizers teach like, oh, you should do, toss, keep, recycle, reuse, throw in the yard, like, they give them so many options. And I'm like,
and it overwhelms them.
Yeah. And so then I tell them, I'm like, listen, you tell me if it, for you, it's keep or release. If you say release, I will figure out if it goes in trash or recycle or donation. But for you as the client, just tell me, keep or release, keep or release. Like two is all they can handle. And so that's why I'm saying I offer that as a thought to you of you're actually helping them by making this decision in your business, not hurting them.
Right. Yeah. And it's because, yes, you are absolutely right. And I've even said that to other people, that if you have less options, it's actually better because you have less overwhelm when you look at things, whether, like you go to the store and there's 5 bins of all different shapes and sizes, like it'd be a lot easier just to decide between 2,
Yes.
So you make a valid point.
Yay! Awesome.
And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you reminding me that I should follow my own advice.
Listen, that's where community is beautiful, is because literally people say stuff to me and I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that. Oh, that's good advice. Or I hear even you all, like, the other day when we were coaching, and like, I think Kristen and Leslie both, were helping you, and then we were all helping Leslie. And then like the group tribe camaraderie thing to me is what makes it so beautiful, that it's not just, one person with just that person's ideas. Like it's a group collaborative thing that we have going. Yeah. And tell everyone your like Instagram or Facebook where they can go follow you.
And my website is just neatnesting.com. My Instagram is @neatnesting, and my Facebook is @neatnestingllc. So
love it.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you, Jen. And thank you for all of you that are listening. We appreciate you for joining us, and I will definitely see you all in the next one. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to proorganizerscoach.com to find all the ways that we can help you succeed in your business. Remember, you have the power to make a difference in people's lives through decluttering and organization. So keep honing your skills, embracing those challenges, and fostering connections. Girl, you've got this.